What's poppin', y'all? Man, the industry's really even trying to eat up independent artists too, because some news recently came out about this platform called Even, which I'm going to explain to you guys in a second. But it says, today we announced a multi-year agreement with Universal Music Group to provide direct-to-fan infrastructure for their labels and artists worldwide. From developing artists to acts debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, we're building for the full spectrum. We're just getting started. Read more here. Now, where I found out about this platform was from LarRussell. Yes, the guy that recently signed to Roc Nation and then proceeded to go viral for his take on Lil Wayne, his brief take, him saying he was a huge fan of Lil Wayne, but also he had a certain point of his life where he was like, yo, this guy's not really rapping about stuff. But LarRussell's whole identity and fan base was built on being independent, ownership, things like that. Another artist who's had experience in the industry with a major label as a partnership, going independent, being independent for the majority of his career, making $100,000 a month plus off of his music prior to ever signing, and then going back to independent, Russ. Someone quote tweeted this and said, has Russ said anything? I'm looking forward to the think pieces. Now, the interesting part about this is that LarRussell, I don't know if he had a deal with this platform in particular, because I think he most likely had a sponsorship deal. This is just me guessing. I haven't asked him. But he had this huge goal where he was trying to sell 100,000 albums in 30 days. And he sold an album for, I think, like 11,000 to Gary Vee, or 18,000. But there were people that bought an album for 11,000. There were people that bought an album for 18,000. I don't know. I think the highest was 35,000 now. I'm not sure. I mean, I bought an album for like $100 because I was like, this is a really cool movement that he's trying to, and this is all builds. LarRussell's kind of a synthesis of different independent acts, and he merges them all together and their success. Like, for example, Nipsey Hussle, he did that 100 albums, $100 each, which people thought was absurd that somebody would charge $100, but it worked. And it led to LarRussell being able to do what he's doing right now. And then also Ryan Leslie curating certain events for your super fans. But even when people started to look at it sideways was when J. Cole used it, because they were like, hold on, I thought this was an independent platform. Why is Cole on that? And in this article where they team up with UMG, they say J. Cole's team and Interscope have used Even as the infrastructure behind multiple direct-to-fan campaigns, including the 10th anniversary of 2014 Forest Hills Drive and the pre-release strategy for the Fall Off. Both projects leveraged Even's white label solution to power exclusive music and content, paid and free community experiences, and direct-to-fan commerce within a dedicated fan destination. The 2014 Forest Hills Drive campaign helped return the album to the Billboard Top 15 a decade after its original release, demonstrating how sustained fan engagement can extend the lifestyle of a project, etc., etc., etc. We're not going to get too much into the deals because they've done this with other UMG artists. They did it with Wale, and one of the complaints that people had, R&B Radar, actually, we have to mention them. Just great platform, by the way. If you guys haven't checked them out and you're into R&B, they're great. But the complaint that this individual had was like, yo, if you can't ship orders on time or make the CDs readily available at major retailers, don't make fans chase physicals. And he said, I love Wale and I will wait, but 4 months for an album that came out last year, I don't know. I feel like y'all should be doing better for the fans actually willing to spend money on your music. And this isn't Wale's responsibility. So Even was a platform that allowed for artists, for example, like, yeah, an artist could quote unquote have their own Shopify store and have their own stock, but then they would need a team to manage the stock and to ship out the orders and to keep the fans satisfied. And they would need somebody that's going to press the vinyls, press the CDs. It's a whole nother operation. It's going to cost a lot more. And when you're an independent artist, if you have a partner that's able and willing to do something like this, it makes sense to work with them. But when said partner gets into a partnership or is now working with major record labels, it's almost like, yo, are these record labels trying to get into eating up from the rise in physical sales? And like vinyl sales, I believe, are at an all-time high right now. So that's something that a lot of people have questions about. And LarRussell being one of the, LarRussell and Russ being kind of like the forefront of success in the independent industry, they are getting criticism for this. LarRussell even got criticism just for signing with Roc Nation. And he would address address this and say, UMG has no ownership in Even. They're a label partner that Even is providing a service to, just like we provide services to indie label partners, United Masters, Too Lost, etc. Every major label has indie subsidiaries and artists who were once independent. Our job is to make sure every artist has a chance to go direct to consumer, build direct, and do what Cole did. It's only ever a problem when we own something and do big business. It's also only ever a problem to us. It's a shame we ain't shining shoes no more. And I don't think this is the frustration that people have. It's just that, okay, now LarRussell, yeah, I was saying I think this guy had a sponsorship deal, but he says, I have equity in Even, not Russ. So LarRussell, not only was this a sponsorship deal that he had with Even, he has equity in this company. And you got to think about it. So you're a startup, corporation, whatever the case may be, and you need somebody that's going to tap into the independent artist base. Who better than LarRussell, who's like, yo, I built this whole business, this successful empire on the back of ownership being independent. And now I'm pushing this platform, which you should also use. So he pushes this platform. It's a success. He extended the 100K albums thing until 60 days. He wasn't able to do it in 30 days, which, I mean, that was a big goal regardless. Like failing, quote unquote, that goal, it's like the cliche of like, oh, you aim for the stars and you like, or you aim for the moon, shoot for the stars, fall on the moon. One of those things. The Pop Smoke album. How about that one? So this gets people even more suspicious, and it's because people are sensitive now to being duped in the sense that Spotify, right? Spotify's payments to artists is going to dwindle. There was this recent thing that they had with, I believe, like MPC, the different type of like collection. I believe it was publishing collection, and they're not going to grow much more. The revenue from that avenue isn't going to grow much more. But what is growing is the physicals. So what does a record label want? Especially a publicly traded company like Universal, they need to continue growing for shareholder value, for shareholders to be happy. So they're going to look for where they can cannibalize another avenue for revenue. So LarRussell continues and says, telling a rapper to stop talking and rap is the same as telling somebody to shut up and dribble. We quickly become the same oppressors we so-called hate. I don't have to make a hit song or rap because I said some ish that you didn't agree with. I don't have to now prove myself worthy of all I've earned because you don't like me. Be God made me. And he says, people confuse transparency with explaining yourself. I don't have to. I get to. I'm sharing my journey, my process, my human experience. The same ish I was doing when no one knew who I was and cared about what I had to say. I'm going to educate while I'm here, and I'm going to be accountable when I'm right and wrong. Y'all just hate free. If I signed with them people, it'd be no issue at all. Well, no, if he signed at all, I think there were, I think he's trying to turn it into something it's not. People feel betrayed that he signed at all. It didn't matter with who he signed. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep rapping my ass off, and I'm going to keep winning. And then someone asks, well, what's in it for UMG if this is still, like all good and well, and this is just a partnership? He says, they get to make more money. The same thing that's in it for every artist that uses Even. Well, an artist that is using Even is contributing to the company growing, which is lining LarRussell's pockets. So this is how everything gets painted, which is, hey, this is great for you to use, and it's a great asset, but I'm telling you this because I have equity in this company. Now, he is being transparent about that, but using this, you are aiding in the building of wealth for LarRussell more than you are yourself. You just got to consider, well, am I getting an equal exchange here? And if you are, then it's good to continue. If they solely rely on streams and now their artists have a way to make money before and after DSP release by going straight to their audience, then they share the benefit. This is the thing, though. People want to support someone financially that is not tied to a corporation. Because, like, for instance, if I like Future, right? Future's getting huge advances. Like, there isn't much of an incentive of like, yo, I'm gonna buy this piece of merch to support Future. You're probably buying Future merch or something like that just because you think it looks cool. However, a major driver for people buying stuff from LarRussell or stuff from Russ is, I know I'm supporting this movement, this vision, this idea of somebody that's trying to exist and go against and compete against the Goliath. It's like I'm supporting David. If everybody's just Goliath, it's like, he don't need my support. Look at him. He's a big giant. He's got plenty to eat. Let me help this malnourished individual. And someone says, Even wasn't purchased by UMG. They're offering their services to the artist labels and subsidiaries under the UMG UMG umbrella for a set term of years. Remember, I said focus on reading a few days ago, and this person retweeted, LarRussell retweeted this, which of course he's going to run defense for a company that he has equity in. But why this makes me so happy that this is getting backlash is that fans are a lot more well researched now. They're not going to have the wool pulled over their heads, because I'm not saying LarRussell is running this play, but do you guys remember when the whole Tidal thing was going on? And Jay-Z, he spent money to buy Tidal. He's like, yo, this is going to be the best place for independent artists. Lil Wayne released Free Weezy album on there. Ye released, I believe it was The Life of Pablo, was originally only available on Tidal, and Wolves too. Like, they got these exclusive releases at a time when these artists made some big sacrifices, because they could have gotten Apple deals, Apple Music, Spotify. This was like the streaming wars. And the whole thing was Jay-Z was like, no, we own this. The artist owns this. This is the best thing for the artist, this playbook. And what happens? Jay-Z stiffs everybody else. He sells it, so it's no longer owned, right? Like, oh, black owned. This is owned by the artist, for the artist. He sells it to a major corporation in Square, and they just eat the loss. Like, the Tidal is not even a competitor. It's worthless. Let's be real here. So he sells it, and he uses this cultural cachet that he had, this cultural equity, to build his own connections. So now he is at Square, and he's a board member at Square, and they bought the company, so he gets a huge bag off of that. And now what is Tidal? And that's what people saw happen to them, and they're looking at LarRussell, and they're like, yo, this thing that you're doing right now, that's not what I bought into. And I think that's fair. It's a fair criticism. Do I think what LarRussell is doing is wrong? Hell no. Man, he should be doing that. He should be doing anything that he can to take himself to the next level. But the fans being very sensitive to anything associated with the industry and not wanting to support that or giving backlash to that is healthy, because it lets the purebred independent artists shine. Like, for example, like I talk about all the time, like Bones is somebody that's been independent for 15 years. Like, we're talking the most they've ever taken is like a distribution deal, right? And it's not even with a major. It's Suicide Boys for a very long time. These guys were independent. And I think now that I don't know if they sold a part of their catalog. I think I saw some headline like that, but regardless, you've got people like them. You've also got Puya, who I think he sold a piece of his catalog to AWOL, which is like Artists Without a Label, which was a distributor. I don't really know if they operate with like label services, but the point is, these people they were comfortable with, hey, we have this movement, we are independent. What we do is we make music, we book our own tours, and we rinse and repeat. And we don't have aspirations of becoming superstars. We don't have aspirations of having a Coca-Cola sponsorship. We don't have aspirations of being at the Super Bowl, right? Like, we're not interested in that. We have traded that out because maybe it doesn't align with them, it doesn't fit with them, or they're saying if we get those things, it will be completely on our own terms. And that's very attractive to people that really relate, which is the majority of fans. The majority of fans are regular people that work a regular job that feel like, hey, there's these other people that are, like far away, they're nothing like me, and this artist resonates with me because he's like me, except he's doing it in the art world against this major industry and all of these other corporations. So I think it's healthy that people are this sensitive, and I think it is great for independent artists that want to be able to build with a fan base like that. Now, am I saying it's wrong if somebody that starts off independent, which everybody does, and has aspirations of, being gigantic, like let's say a Yeet, right? Because getting to a Travis Scott level, I don't even know how that's done anymore. Like I said, the last superstar we had was Travis Scott. Maybe you could even say Cardi, but Cardi came out in 2015. So like this decade, like, what do we really got? Like, becoming a superstar is so much harder. But if someone has those aspirations, then it's not a good idea to build your fan base off of the back of, oh, I'm independent. Yo, F the system. Oh, we don't care about the industry, because you're putting it into the head of your fans that, yo, when Coca-Cola comes knocking, you're going to turn that down. Now, obviously, that Coca-Cola is not going to come knocking unless you're on a major label. So I think the criticism here is valid. I think Russell, actually not Russ, is trying to spin it into like, yo, if I signed with them people, like I'm guessing he's saying like white people or like Jewish labels, like you guys would be fine with it. No, that's 100%. I'm willing to go as far as to say no, they would not. They would have felt the same exact way. It's you signing with a major, especially like somebody like Jay-Z at this time, it doesn't look the greatest. And if he follows Jay-Z's blueprint, then his end goal is to be as far removed from being independent as possible, or from the average person and average artist. And they're not going to want to contribute to an end goal that's going to take you further away from them. But let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. I think this is great news for independent artists generally, and fan bases are getting smarter, which is great, because I remember banging my head against the wall like 6-7 years ago, just like, man, fans are just so gullible. They will just fall for anything and they will continuously get duped. But fans have gotten a lot brighter, and that makes me happy, because people that are, I don't want to use authentic, because I don't think anything that LarRussell or an independent artist that wants to continuously elevate and get to the top is wrong. But I do think artists that are more raw and to the root of the closest thing, or like the closest concentric circle to being independent, they deserve more support. And the fans reacting like this to LarRussell means that that support is there and it's viable, and they're not just going to blindly follow the artist like sheep. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.